They thought a velvet rope could keep him out. They didn't know the conductor was waiting for him. A thin spring rain turned Chicago's streets into a shimmer of black glass. Neon from the coffee shop across the avenue bled red onto the wet pavement. Miles Carter lifted the collar of his dark coat and tightened the worn strap of his guitar case. It wasn't just a guitar inside. It was the sound of a childhood spent bending strings in South Side basements, the sound that had earned him a single, unexpected letter with the Avery Symphony Hall seal. The invitation lay folded in his breast pocket, warm from his body heat. He tapped it once for courage and mounted the grand stone steps. The Symphony Hall loomed like a temple of light and shadow. Marble pillars soared into the night, their bases slick with rain. Through the towering glass doors, chandeliers glowed amber, throwing fractured reflections across the wet stone. From somewhere deep inside came the faint swell of strings, musicians tuning, bows drawing out tentative notes that quivered like distant thunder. Miles reached for the door. "Hold up!" The command cut across the drizzle. A man in a Navy security coat stepped forward, broad shoulders filling the entryway. The nameplate read, Grant. His palm hovered inches from Miles's chest. "Deliveries go around back," Grant said, voice flat. "I'm not making a delivery," Miles replied, keeping his tone even. "I'm here for Maestro Alvarez. He's expecting me." Another guard emerged from the shadows of the vestibule, taller, heavier, his boots squeaking on the wet marble. He folded his arms and studied Miles with open skepticism. Grant gave a small, knowing chuckle. "Sure he is. And I'm first chair violin. Hall's closed to the public till showtime. No street sets tonight, friend." Street sets. The words slid under Miles's skin. He felt the sting, but forced a calm breath. "I have an invitation." He reached slowly into his coat. The bigger guard's hand twitched toward the radio at his belt. "Easy," he warned. "Hands where I can see them." Miles froze, heart thudding. Through the doors, a single violin note rose, high and piercing like a wire pulled too tight. He held the guard's gaze, then slowly withdrew a cream envelope, edges damp from the mist. "Read it," he said. Grant didn't move. "Hall's at capacity. Come back when you can afford a ticket." Behind them, a couple in evening attire approached, the woman's pearls catching the streetlight. They slowed, curious, eyes flicking from the guitar case to the guards. Miles felt the weight of their silent judgment, that quiet calculation of who belonged and who did not. Thunder rumbled over the lake. The seconds stretched, heavy enough to bend. Miles's jaw tightened. He thought of the cramped practice rooms where he'd bled on fretboards, of his mother working double shifts so he could buy strings. He thought of the letter in his hand, proof that he belonged beyond these doors. But every instinct whispered caution. Push too hard and the night might end with flashing lights instead of music. Then a voice, firm and unmistakable, cut through the rain. "Let him through." All four of them turned. A figure descended the grand staircase inside the lobby, silver hair catching the chandelier glow. Maestro Emilio Alvarez moved with the easy authority of a man who owned every note in the building. A slender baton gleamed between his fingers. "That," the conductor said, each word slicing the damp air, "is Miles Carter, our featured soloist." The taller guard's posture faltered. Grant's smirk dissolved. "Maestro, we weren't informed." "You don't need to be informed," Alvarez replied coolly. "You only need to open the door." Heat flared across Miles's chest. Anger, relief, vindication all at once. The guard stepped back, suddenly smaller than the marble columns that framed them. Alvarez strode forward, extending a hand. "Forgive the welcome, my friend. Chicago is waiting." The conductor pulled the heavy glass door open himself. Warmth rolled out, carrying the scent of polished wood and resin. Miles crossed the threshold, the city's chill falling away behind him like a discarded coat. Inside, the lobby glowed with soft amber light. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen fireworks. Patrons in tuxedos and evening gowns paused mid-conversation as the two men passed. Miles heard a faint ripple of whispers. Who is he? But Alvarez's hand on his shoulder kept him steady. They moved through a corridor lined with framed concert posters, the low hum of the orchestra growing louder with each step. A timpani rumbled somewhere deep within, a heartbeat to match his own. "You've played in clubs, yes?" Alvarez asked, voice warm now. "Plenty," Miles said. "Good. The hall is bigger, but the music is the same. Remember that." The stage door opened onto a cathedral of sound. Rows of mahogany seats stretched into darkness. The ceiling arched high above like the inside of a great ship. Musicians tuned and tested, a clarinet trilling, a cello moaning low, the air alive with anticipation. As Miles stepped onto the polished stage, a hush swept across the orchestra. Bows hovered midair. Dozens of eyes turned toward him, curious, appraising, but not dismissive. Alvarez raised a hand to the ensemble. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, voice carrying to the farthest balcony, "tonight, a new voice joins ours. Please welcome Miles Carter." Polite applause grew into genuine cheers. Miles felt the knot in his chest loosen. Back at the entryway, the doors closed on the drizzle and the guards who had tried to bar his way. Miles pictured them standing in silence, the echo of Alvarez's words hanging in the damp night. He set his guitar case down, fingers trembling, not from fear now, but from the surge of purpose. Every slight he'd endured, every alley gig, every door slammed in his face had led to this stage. Alvarez nodded. "Whenever you're ready." The house lights dimmed until only a single spotlight poured over him, hot and blinding. He unsnapped the case, the metallic click echoing through the hall. For one breathless moment, the world narrowed to the smooth neck of the guitar and the expectant silence of hundreds. Miles drew the pick across the strings. A deep, resonant chord rolled outward, filling the cavernous space, weaving with the hushed anticipation like a promise kept. It was richer than any club, more defiant than any street corner, music that belonged nowhere but everywhere. Another chord followed, then a cascade of notes, bright and unstoppable. The orchestra joined, violins rising like dawn, brass answering with thunder. The sound grew vast enough to swallow the memory of the guards' smirks, vast enough to drown the drizzle outside. Somewhere in the shadows of the lobby, Miles knew, those same guards were listening, whether they wished to or not. The velvet rope might still hang across the entrance, but it meant nothing now, because in this hall, in this moment, the music had already torn it down.